Hello and thanks for joining us for another edition of Northwest Newsweek. I'm Mitchell Ringos. A house fire claimed the lives of two Kenora residents last Friday morning. The tragic blaze was one of four to completely destroy homes in the Kenora area over an 8-day span. The fire chief says there is no connection between the incidents. Lee Noonan reports.
The Kenora Fire Department received multiple calls to a house fire on Kenora's 18th Avenue just after 2 a.m. Friday.
And there was flames coming through one of the front windows and smoke and flames coming from the roof when we got there. The occupants were unknown of their whereabouts at the time. The neighbors didn't know whether they were home or not. There was two vehicles in the driveway, so the crews tried to make entry. Unfortunately, the fire was too far involved. They couldn't enter.
Two persons were discovered deceased in the single-family dwelling. They're believed to be Jim and Carla Rainier. A GoFundMe campaign has been set up to assist their family with funeral expenses. The Office of the Fire Marshal is investigating the incident and have not yet released their conclusions.
We know there was working smoke alarms, but we're not sure why the homeowners were unable to get out of the structure.
Nevertheless, Pratt urges all area residents to ensure they have working smoke alarms in their homes, saying they made a crucial difference in a house fire that consumed an Agger Street home overnight on Sunday.
Working smoke alarm saves lives. The incident this morning, the couple was awakened by the smoke alarm activation, and they were able to get out of the house safely and call 911.
Pratt says the two fires, as well as one that destroyed a house on River Drive on May 21st and another just outside Kenora on the 24th, are all unrelated.
I can assure everyone the origin and cause of them have been investigated, and they're all different. So one was unattended cooking, one was, we believe, a wood stove, one possibly was improperly discarded smoking materials, and I believe the one today is related to an electrical fault.
Pratt praises local fire crews for their perseverance through an incredibly challenging week and asks area residents to be very mindful of fire safety under the current hot, dry conditions. Lee Noonan, TBT News.
A young Dryden man is dead, and OPP have laid murder charges against another man following a tragic incident in that community early Thursday morning. OPP responded to an apartment building on King Street where the victim, 20-year-old Cypress Lawson, was found with life-threatening injuries. He was transported to hospital but did not survive. Officers later arrested 23-year-old Samuel Schmenka, also of Dryden, at a business on Government Street. Schmenka is charged with second-degree murder and remains in custody with a court date set for June 8th. Dryden OPP are asking anyone with information regarding the incident to contact police or Crime Stoppers. A petition related to the storage of used nuclear fuel was delivered to Queen Park this week by the opposition groups known as We the Nuclear Free North and Protect Our Waterways. The petition was endorsed by Kiiwetinoong MPP Saul Mamakwa and officially read into the record at the legislature.
We, the undersigned, petition to the Legislative Assembly of Ontario to adopt a proximity principle with respect to the management of radioactive wastes and direct Ontario power generations to further their development of robust extended storage systems at or near the point of generation.
The petition with 1,200 signatures was first announced during a media conference at Queen's Park. The concerns relayed by the two opposition groups focused on the unprecedented nature of these storage techniques, with the petition making a formal request to the Government of Ontario to abide by the proximity principle, a concept that forms part of the European Community's nuclear waste management strategy.
The proximity principle directs that radioactive waste should be managed as close to the point of generation as technically feasible.
The fact is that there's very little information about the amount of radiation that will be escaping from not only the DGR itself, from the transportation of the fuel, but also in the repackaging facility.
The Nuclear Waste Management Organization issued a written response to the petition and is objecting to concept of the proximity principle. The agency says arbitrarily siting a waste facility near an existing nuclear facility would mean nearby municipalities and First Nations would have no input in the location, which the NWMO says just isn't right. The agency is expected to announce a preferred location for the deep nuclear repository next year between a site near Ignace and one near Lake Huron. Officials in Ignace have announced that the township is committed to remaining a candidate in the process to choose a host location for a proposed nuclear waste site, but the town council has stopped short of saying their decision is the final one. The Nuclear Waste Management Organization recently asked town council for its commitment to follow and fulfill its obligations as a potential host community. Council voted on Wednesday to support the process, but with 2 council seats remaining empty, they say they will ensure there is still time for the public and a full council to participate. In a written statement, Interim Mayor Kim Bakery said, "It's extremely important that we as a council not miss the opportunity to continue to participate in this process with NWMO as the timelines for commitment are tight. The town will be soliciting applicants for council positions until Monday. The NWMO has previously said it expects communities to decide by the end of the year whether they want to host a deep geological repository to store Canada's spent nuclear fuel. The agency plans to select a site in 2024. Construction expenditures for the Greenstone gold mine have reached $1 billion, and major changes can be seen in and around the Geraldton area. The final push to complete construction of the massive project is having a big impact on nearby communities. Lee Noonan was at the mine to witness the dramatic process firsthand.
Open pit activities are already underway, with regular blasting being conducted. Construction is moving along on a massive containment dome, and at the process plant, 2 ball mills are being installed while electrical and piping work continues. General Manager Eric Lamontagne says the work to build the gold mine just outside Geraldton is 70% complete.
We are in target to start commissioning in the 4th quarter this year, and to start full production beginning commissioning and beginning next year.
They plan on getting the last 30% built this year, and construction is going full bore, with roughly 1,000 contractors now working in the area.
We're definitely seeing the roads a lot busier. We're seeing the restaurants a lot busier. We're seeing things like the hotels being booked up.
Greenstone CAO Mark Wright says that although there are some growing pains, the progress is nice to see.
With the development of the mine site as well as the realignment of the highway, pretty much every day someone drives through, they'll notice something different. So it's quite exciting to see the changes.
Highway 11 currently passes right through the site, but work is well underway to reroute a roughly 3-kilometer stretch of highway away from the mine. Lamontagne says the new road should be ready to go before the end of the summer.
We target to put in place the asphalt in July and have the turnover of the highway in August.
Community Relations Manager Dina Quenville says they've been very happy with the level of engagement from area residents.
People are very excited by the progress of the project. Many of them have, found employment with us and or are working with some of our contractors as well. So there's a huge excitement level on that front.
In addition to jobs, Lamontagne and Quenville also fielded questions about air quality and wildlife protection at a community info session. At the annual barbecue and site tour, the conversation centered more on the workings of the mine itself, as well as simply awe at the sheer size of the project and the dramatic changes taking place.
Next year, at the same time, we'll have this barbecue, and we'll have perhaps a gold bar in our hands.
The next big construction milestone is the completion of the 58-megawatt power plant, which is expected to go into performance testing in August. Lee Noonan, TBT News.
Large forest fire near the town of White River continues to burn, and it forced the closure of one of the highways in that area earlier this week. The Ministry of Natural Resources and Forestry released this photo on Tuesday of Wawa Fire 3, which is now around 7,000 hectares in size. It's burning in a northeast direction, fortunately moving away from White River and Highway 17. However, the big blaze prompted the OPP to close Highway 631 between Hornpain and White River on Monday night. Fire Information Officer Kyle Hayward spoke about the situation on Tuesday.
The other highway going north, 631, I believe that is currently closed due to visibility issues from smoke. I don't believe it's because of the flames along the highway, but the intense smoke visibility. There's some images that we have available that really indicate, it's there's no getting through really as of right now.
Highway 631 reopened to traffic late Tuesday night. Meanwhile, the spike in forest fires around the north prompted the Ministry of Natural Resources and Forestry to impose a restricted fire zone across the region on Thursday. The fire ban impacts all 13 districts in the Northwest and will remain in effect until conditions improve. Campfires and all other types of outdoor burning are not allowed until the fire ban is eventually lifted. The fire hazard in the Northwest actually subsided as the restricted fire zone was put in place, ranging from low to high around the region as of Friday afternoon. 50-bed expansion to the Kenora jail was completed in September, but it's still not operational. We'll be back with more on the situation at the jail in just a couple minutes. Welcome back, and like we were saying before the break, a 50-bed expansion to the Kenora jail has been sitting empty for months. Kenora Rainy River MPP Greg Rickford says staffing challenges are to blame. In the meantime, Kiiwetinoong MPP Saul Mamakwa toured the original facility, and he says he's concerned about the welfare of inmates there. Lee Noonan has more.
Construction of the expansion began in 2021 and was completed last September, but the 50 new beds are still unoccupied. MPP Greg Rickford says a staffing shortage is to blame, but he's hopeful the situation will be resolved soon.
Obviously, there are shortages across this province, and correctional officers are no exception. So we'll get there very soon. The sense is that we'll be able to be operational in the not-too-distant future.
Rickford says he would like to see the 8-week correctional officer training offered in the riding again. In the meantime, Saul Mamakwa, MPP for Kiiwetinoong, toured the original facility, which is nearly 100 years old, and brought his concerns about conditions there back to Queen's Park.
What I saw, it's as if the people that are there are not human. And Ontario needs to act on its promises to provide more treatment in jails, especially the addictions crisis, as the addiction crisis continues. Speaker, what is Ontario doing to ensure inmates in the northern jails are getting the mental health and the addictions they need help with?
I've toured a lot of facilities all over Ontario, and it has been an eye-opener for me to see the investments that we made in the facilities to meet the cultural needs of the Indigenous peoples there, such as the smudging spaces, the sweat lodges, and the teaching lodges. Mr. Speaker, this is important to our government, and we will continue to act.
Mamaquest says he also wants investments in preventative measures to keep those struggling with addictions and mental health out of the jail in the first place. Lee Noonan, TBT News.
Fort Frances OPP have charged a 12-year-old with arson after a fire burned down at a building at the town's waste transfer station. And as a result of the fire, recycling pickup for residents and businesses has been put on hold. The recycled transfer station building burned to the ground last Saturday afternoon. OPP were then called in on Monday morning, and the youth was arrested as a result of the investigation. The building contained electrical components needed to operate 2 recycling compactors. Fort Frances officials have paused depot and curbside recyclable collection and are working to restore the electricity to get both compactors running again in a week or 2. It may take a couple of months to get curbside recycling collection up and running again, and town officials have asked the public to stop leaving recyclables at the depot until the compactors are back in operation. A fund that helped hospitals in the region attract locum doctors from Southern Ontario has been renewed for 1 more year. Officials from several hospitals in the Northwest had been sounding the alarm, saying that without the locum funding, ER closures this summer would be inevitable. Health Minister Sylvia Jones has touted that the program helped avoid nearly 1,500 temporary ER closures last summer, but it expired on March 31st, and local hospitals were feeling the heat as they hope for this news. Jones says the ministry will monitor the success of the program and assess how best to support emergency departments going forward. Locally, officials have called for funding that would address the unique needs of remote and rural northern hospitals. Regional results from the Ontario Health Coalition survey on the privatization of healthcare were revealed on Tuesday. The province-wide initiative saw thousands of people cast ballots here in the Northwest, with the vast majority of those voters showing opposition to privatization healthcare. Vasilios Bellos reports.
The Thunder Bay Health Coalition has released the results of its survey, which they're calling a people's referendum against the Ford government's Bill 60. The bill allows private clinics to take on more procedures from hospitals. More than 4,600 people in Thunder Bay voted in person or online, with only 61 people voting yes, and the other 98.7% opposed to the question, do you want our public hospital services to be privatized to for-profit hospitals and clinics, though it in no way forces the province to go back on Bill 60.
So it's very clear the province of Ontario, the general public in the province of Ontario is not interested in Doug Ford's plan to privatize our hospital services.
The local involvement was part of a province-wide initiative by the Ontario Health Coalition that was seeking 1 million votes. The final tally was well below at over 382,000, but local co-chair Jules Tupker still believes this will have an impact.
Politicians are politicians. They have to be re-elected. And if they do things that the people don't like, then it's going to cost them votes. And this is something that is deeply entrenched in people's minds in Ontario, our public in Canada. Our public health care system is a huge part of our life. We talk about it, we brag about it.
There were 14 in-person voting booths set up in Thunder Bay last week, with a number of people volunteering to help out. That includes Janet Wright, who says she saw many diverse groups taking time to vote.
It wasn't just, the older, more informed population who have been targeted a lot by the privatization and affected by the privatization. There was a lot of young people who said, okay, what's this all about?
There were also more than 2,000 votes cast in person at polling stations in 10 other towns and cities in the Northwest, with over 99% voting no to private hospital services. The Ontario Health Coalition is now planning to take the ballots to the legislature on Wednesday and present them to Doug Ford's caucus. Vasilios Bellos, TBT News.
More than $1 million in infrastructure funding was announced this week for Sleeping Giant Provincial Park. We'll have that story after the break. Welcome back. MPP Kevin Holland was at Sleeping Giant Provincial Park on Friday for a significant funding announcement to improve the campground's infrastructure. The $1.7 million will be used to replace the park's backup generator and electrical systems while upgrading the sanitary dump and fill station. The announcement saw Holland joined by officials from the park located on the Sibley Peninsula. The infrastructure improvements are expected to make for more environmentally friendly operations and improve the visitors' experience. Holland says any investments into the parks in this region are crucial to supporting the area's economy.
As families, get out and they're slowly getting back used to, post-COVID environment. So to have the parks and the opportunity here for them to get out together, and we see them coming back then. So for the tourism for Thunder Bay, parks are a vital component of that, and so any investment that we make into our park system is going to benefit the whole region.
This announcement was part of a provincial commitment to investing more than $41 million into Ontario Parks infrastructure over 2 years. Meanwhile, Thunder Bay Superior North MPP Lise Vaugeois pressed the Ford government this week whether it will reclassify conservation officers to ensure wage parity with other enforcement officers. She directed her question to Natural Resources and Forestry Minister Graydon Smith, but House Leader Paul Calandra responded, criticizing NDP members' voting records.
On April 21st, I received a letter signed by this minister stating that conservation officers did not deserve to be reclassified, thus denying them wage parity with other enforcement officers. So imagine my surprise when 10 days ago this very same minister stated that conservation officer classifications are being reviewed with OPSEU together with the Ministry Director of Enforcement. Well, OPSEU was as surprised as I was and described the minister's statement as not accurate and misleading the public. Does he or does he not intend to reclassify conservation officers to give them wage parity with other enforcement officers?
Let's see, the members for Windsor vote against hospitals and then say they want hospitals. Yep. The members from Toronto vote against subways and roads and expansions in Toronto but then say they want them. The members for Sudbury and the northern members vote against miners and the work that we're doing to protect and improve the economy in the north and then say, oh, maybe we should do something about that. I'm going to give some unsolicited, unpaid advice to the NDP. What happens in a parliament is that we bring things forward, and when you want them, they're supported in legislation and you vote in favor of it. So when you vote against things, Mr. Speaker, what happens is that you don't get it. But thankfully, a progressive Conservative government is moving on all of these things, including adding more conservation officers to the province of Ontario.
Construction is just getting started on an 1,800 square foot extension to a senior centre in Fort Frances. The Sister Kennedy Centre received funding from the town and province last year to complete the nearly $500,000 project.
Seniors who built our communities are going to have a lively, vibrant, dynamic space to gather.
With the expansion, it is exciting for everybody, for the seniors, because now they have more room to move, more areas. There'll be different activities coming in. Like just listening from everybody or hearing them talk, they are excited.
The Sister Kennedy Centre is important to combating loneliness among seniors in Fort Frances and the surrounding area, according to Board Chair Debbie McTaggart. She says seniors come in from all around for a variety of activities. The new space will allow them to add even more activities to the roster. MPP Greg Rickford stopped by the centre last week to check out the work site and enjoy an egg salad sandwich. And that's all the time we have for this edition of Northwest Newsweek. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next time.